speaker, Dr. Sandeep Kishore, resident at Yale School of Medicine. Dr. Kishore is a physician at Yale School of Medicine and chair of the Young Professionals Chronic Disease Network, a global network of over 2,000 young professionals from 130 countries committed to the equitable prevention and treatment of NCDs as a social justice issue. Dr. Kishore is the first Lancet awardee for community service. Dr. Kishore, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to be here as a physician, as a scientist, but most of all, as an advocate. I represent a social movement to tackle NCDs as the social justice issue of our generation. As part of your deliberations for the NCD response, I want to focus on two short and sweet points for the future of our health. Number one, solidarity on trade and health. Just 6 months ago, I bore witness to the testimony of South Africa's Director General of Health at the WHO. She testified powerfully, tearfully, that a US-based public relations firm enlisted by over 24 pharmaceutical companies was planning a subversive campaign to halt reforms to South Africa's intellectual property and trade policies. These reforms, if passed, would have safeguarded access to medicines for all diseases, from HIV/AIDS to cancer, from diabetes to dengue. I stood so very proud of what happened next. The Director General of the WHO, Dr. Margaret Chan, and member states, including many of you, rose in solidarity with South Africa to speak out against undue corporate influence. One such ally to South Africa was Australia. Australia relayed its own battle to invoke TRIPS flexibilities and their fight against tobacco, including the landmark Plain Packaging Act in 2011. Australia dared to challenge the tobacco industry for the health rights of their people. The storyline of what happened next is all too familiar. 3 major tobacco firms came together to fund a $9 million campaign to destroy Australia's efforts. Lawsuit after lawsuit ensued. Now, whether it's access to medicines, tobacco control, salt reduction in South Africa, reduction of marketing of sugary drinks to children in New York City, we understand that behind the scenes, the enormous pressures you face to stand up for public's health. We get it. And as civil society, as your people, our avowed responsibility is to respectfully stand with you. But please kindly note that we are also watching. We are mobilizing a people's movement. We will seek to kindly hold you accountable and transparent through initiatives such as Countdown 2025, building up the enormous success of Countdown 2015 for maternal and child health. And we humbly ask that you hold us, as public interest civil society, accountable to you. Second, money. Now, this might be taboo, but I am painfully aware that some member states in this austere hall today have called for no new resources for NCDs. And just yesterday, I spoke with a colleague from the private sector who is leading a charge on funding for NCDs. He asked pointedly to me, quote, "Where is the public sector investment in this?" Member states, we now ask, where are you on investment on NCDs? Can you please help? At the international level, I understand the contributions for the Global Coordination Mechanism, a unique partnership to address the greatest disease burden in mankind's history, that of NCDs. And the contribution averages to $10,000 per member state. $10,000. That's a paltry $1.8 million in total, or 0.0002 cents per person across the world. Respected leaders, can we and should we not do better? At the country level, how can a country with just $40 per person per year on health, or perhaps as low as $19 per person per year on health in East Africa, do anything on NCDs. We know that to have impacts on NCDs, we must be part of a broader agenda on health and human development post-2015. And while calls for increased financing go on, one concrete step is the development of NCD units at the country level, whose mandate is to institute action across clinical, public health, and regulatory domains. But our experience, our honest experience, is that these NCD units have not even scratched the surface of their true potential. One way to help these units actualize their potential, as Dr. Lardy just affirmed, is to invest in the most precious resource you have, human capital. From my work with the Young Professionals Chronic Disease Network, with members in over 130 countries, I can affirm that there are young nutritionists from Dhaka to Delhi, lawyers from London to Lagos, and physicians from Nairobi to New York, and people living with NCDs who are stepping up with passion, with training. But in our generation, we have little support, little mentorship, little technical guidance for what to do next. We don't have an outlet. This generation, my generation, has untold and untapped human capital to lead on NCDs, but we need guidance, and we need it now. To this end, what if the global coordination mechanism, the NCD partnership, could help address this gap at the country level? Imagine this. Imagine a fellowship for the future, an NCD core fund that is resourced modestly to equip and position 10 young emerging leaders from each of your member states to staff your NCD units in all countries by the year 2018. Now, I was inspired by the distinguished gentleman from Bangladesh who called for a global pool of resources to support this. Finally, I would like to take a step back to remind myself and this distinguished audience how we came to this moment. I would not be speaking here were it not for the transformative advocacy of people living with NCDs in the first instance. In 2011, when you met here for the first ever high-level meeting on NCDs, our collective peacefully assembled outside the UN headquarters in a demonstration for equity, action, and targets. One of the people standing with me was a close friend, Gloria Borges. At the tender age of 28, she was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. After dozens of surgeries and over 40 rounds of chemotherapy, she summoned the strength to travel to New York City. She took the bullhorn at the rally that day, and this was her message to you on September 19th, 2011. Do something. Ladies and gentlemen, on January 5th of this year, Gloria Borges passed away. I dedicate this statement on behalf of civil society to her and to all the Gloria Borgeses around the world. And right here, I want to give voice to her soulful plea directly to you, the global decision makers. Let us not succumb to the chronic disease of inaction. Let us not succumb to the cancer of empty rhetoric. Please, we ask, do something. We can start with solidarity and equity and trade. We can start with leveraging platforms to empower the next generation in a fellowship for the future and a global NCD core fund. And we can tap into the soul of a generation and a movement of your people to obliterate the social injustice of NCDs. I thank you.